Hello, YouTube. All right, welcome back to yet another episode of As the Van Turns. Since I apparently have to do a lot of turning, getting ready to do a left turn here. Anyhow, the other day I was talking about the advantages of who living in a van, who I recommend should live in a van, even though if you've been following this channel, then you know that I actually don't recommend living in a van except for certain circumstances, certain groups that would actually benefit from it. Because living in a van is hard. For some people, harder than others. But today's topic, though, is living in an RV versus living in a van, and how I feel about the two. And I don't know if you could tell already from watching my RV videos, even though the RV isn't completely repaired. Right now it's about 85% operational. It still needs some fairly major work done on the cab area, and of course outside, and securing it, and the mechanicals, as well as the tires and other issues. But as far as livability, the RV is, like I said, about 85% operational. So get kind of a little bit of a taste test as to what it's like living in an RV full time on a limited budget. The thing about living in an RV versus living in a van, in case you couldn't tell the difference, it's like night and day. If I had to put it into numbers, I would say living in an RV is like 1,000 times better than living in a van. That's how much better it is. So if you're wondering if I would recommend people live in an RV, it depends. Once again, if you have the choice of living in a van or living in an RV full time, okay, with the exception of the van dweller groups that I was talking about, the ones who can travel, who aren't tied down to a place, maybe doing it temporarily to save money and want a stealth camp. I actually recommend living in an RV to save money. An RV is essentially a tiny house on wheels, and it's already got the major systems in place. You've got plumbing, you've got electrical, you even have air conditioning. And I tell you what, the air conditioning that's on the RVs that come standard with them, I think they're like super, super powerful. They're like probably 15,000 BTUs or more. Because the one that's in good enough cools down the whole RV, just one air conditioner. But it does have an issue in that you have to have electricity. It uses a lot of electricity. So that's my, I guess the word is caveat about living in an RV, okay? If you can afford to live in an RV, like you can buy a cheap RV like I did. I bought White Knuckle, which later became Good Enough, for $1,200. I know a lot of you out there in YouTube land felt it was a mistake, felt I was throwing away my money, that I was being foolish. Maybe you're right, but from my end, I was viewing the RV not as an RV, but as a tiny house on wheels. It's just a tiny house mostly. Being able to move it was like a bonus. And having it run super nicely would be very nice, but not absolutely critical. It just had to run good enough to get it from point A to B safely, which it did so far. Although I would like to get it fixed mechanically if possible, if the cost isn't too prohibitive. And that's the issue, is how much do you want to sink into it? Timothy has gone out of his way to help me with something that makes living in an RV possible. And what that is securing a parking spot. And that would be the big caveat about living in an RV versus living in a van. You see, if you live in a van, even a full-size or extended van, high-top van, you can still easily camp almost anywhere. you can go into almost any parking lot and blend right in. And it's especially easy to do if you're in a minivan. Like I was in Little Blue 2, Little Blue 1, and Hannah the Montana, Hannah the Pontiac Montana. But all these little minivans are very good for stealth camping. And when I say stealth camping, honestly, the police and anyone who knows what to look for, they know you're living in it, okay? Don't think you're actually getting away with anything. The whole idea of stealth camping isn't to make it so that the police can't tell, because the police can tell. It's to make it so that the average Joe citizen doesn't call the police on you because they suspect something weird. They think you're doing drugs, they think you're a child molester, they think you're a vagrant, they think you're something because you live in a van. So that's the idea of making a stealth van. And when you have a stealth vehicle, it allows you to park in like parking lots almost anywhere, even some streets, and if you do it right and you don't draw attention to yourself, you're hiding in plain sight and you're left alone. And occasionally, someone will notice, because the regulars, the locals, they notice when something's odd, when there's a different car there or something, or a car, you didn't do a good job enough of hiding, you kept parking at the same place, they'll call the police on you. So that's one of the drawbacks of living in a van, okay? But it's also one of the things that really makes it a lot better than living in an RV, because see, you can't really hide the fact that you're in an RV living in it. Even if you're not living in it, when someone sees an RV parked somewhere, they automatically think someone is in it, living in it, okay? So that doesn't mean you can't park in a parking lot. I know, like traveling, Walmarts and a lot of other stores, they may even let you spend the night, like 1 or 2 nights at their parking lot, rent-free, okay? A lot of them have signs, though, starting to pop up that say no overnight parking, okay? I won't get into that discussion on this video, but that's where if you have a stealth van, even though it says no overnight parking, I used to park there all the time and they left me alone, Sometimes the police would actually come and do a roundup in the middle of the night and go around knocking on all the doors and windows of various campers and vans that looked like camper vans and made those people leave the parking lot. And they walked right by my van and left me alone, because I was like listening and peeking out through the window at the police. They'd have like 5 or 6 cops out there, cars, knocking on all the van dwellers and telling them to leave. They couldn't spend the night there at the Walmart, but they missed my van because it looked like a van. It didn't look like a, the van inside looks like a house almost, got everything, but outside it looks like a van. It doesn't look, doesn't stand out, doesn't look like a camper, doesn't have solar panels, doesn't have an air conditioner sticking out, doesn't have all the stuff that gives away that somebody's in it. But let's jump back to the RV. The biggest thing that would stop someone, I think, from living in an RV is finding a place to park. Yeah. So if you're planning on traveling, you're gonna need money. Okay, you're gonna need money for the RV because it uses a lot of gas. An RV, just like any other vehicle, breaks down, and I think they might even break down more often because there's more things that can go wrong. Not only do you have vehicle components that can go wrong, you have housing components that can go wrong. And the housing components on these older RVs, I don't know how the new ones are, they're trash, they're junk, from what I could tell, based on what I saw working on Good Enough, and even my other RV that I had before that, the little Leprechaun that you guys never saw. Maybe I don't know if I showed you on that video before. Maybe I'll do another video talking about my previous RV, which I was working on and building and didn't even get to live in it. But anyhow, let's go back to living in an RV. If you can secure a parking spot for the RV, if you have a location where you can either, 1, park for free, or 2, you can afford to pay to park there on a consistent basis where it's not going to be a problem with the city, the county, the state, any governments, or the neighbors, the police, whoever, where it's not going to be an issue. Living in an RV is awesome. Okay, if you can do that, because you can, if you own the RV, like if you have like a cheap RV that you got for free, which people give away all the time, or you get a cheap one like I got for good enough. And I paid $1,200. We've sunk about close to $1,500, $2,000 into repairs and everything else that's associated with it. And of course, I've been having to pay rent. The biggest expense you're going to have, other than paying for the RV itself, which I don't recommend doing, I recommend getting a used RV, just because you can save a lot of money. And if you're handy, you can fix it up like me. All you're really buying it for is all the components are there. The electricals are there, the air conditioner's there, the cooking system's there, the refrigerator's there, the bathroom's there. It's all there. All you're gonna do is fix it up and try to keep it from leaking, from falling apart. And you know, if you're into traveling and stuff, but we're gonna talk about that here later in a moment. But I actually don't really recommend traveling in an RV except for specific groups. I'll talk about that later. But I do highly recommend living in an RV as a very cheap means of living, and living pretty comfortably. Now, would I recommend living in an RV versus living in a house? If you can afford to live in a house and own a house, I would definitely recommend living in a house, not an RV. The only reason I would recommend an RV is to save money. You don't have money, or you have very low money, or you want to travel and your RV can travel. It's in good enough shape to travel, and you have funding in case it breaks down or something. But for somebody who is similar to me, doesn't have a lot of money and stuff, I highly recommend living in an RV versus living in a van. It's 1,000 times better. And how it's better is, I don't know if my videos show you how it's better. Just look at these new RV videos compared to what it's like living in a van, even though Little Blue 2 is heavily modified to accommodate full-time living. I can cook in the van and I can cook in the RV. But I can tell you what, cooking in the RV is 1,000 times more pleasant. There's less likelihood of me setting the place on fire because in the van, it's a confined space, very, very small. RV is a small kitchen, but 100 times bigger than the van. The other thing is standing up room. You know, some people have the high tops and stuff that can stand up, so that might be alleviated a little bit. But even in a Class B that's got a high top, it's still smaller than a Class C RV. Class C RVs, I would recommend living in full time. Class B RVs, you could possibly live in it full time, but I would recommend it for traveling. And you know, for those of you who don't know the difference, a Class B looks like a van, but has a living room, bedroom, kitchen. It's just so small. It's barely larger, just slightly the same size of an extended high-top van, usually, for a Class B RV. But a Class C RV or a Class A RV, which are huge, almost like the size of a bus, or even a school bus, if you want to convert a school bus, I recommend living in something that big. Because even though that's big by vehicle standards, it's small by house standards. It's still probably about 150 to 300 square feet or smaller. So the reason I recommend it is it feels more like a house. You actually can have a bedroom, you can have a bathroom, you can have a kitchen, you can even have a living room. In my RV, I have 2 different bedrooms. I have a bedroom over the cab, which you can't stand up in, but you can lay down in. It's large enough to hold 2 adults. You got the bedroom in the back, which is huge by vehicle standards for living in. Compared to my van, that thing holds a queen bed, has walking room on the sides, nice windows with blinds, overhead cabinets, library that I'm installing, widescreen TV. You know, it's like night and day. Little Blue 2 has a TV, has a bedroom. The bedroom can be converted into a living room. It has a kitchen, 2 kitchens as a matter of fact. But you got to do all these tricks. You got to convert, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it's still cramped, and you can't really stand up and cook in it. You can cook on the outside kitchen in this van, the little blue tube. It's the minivan. You know, in that mode, when I do not stealth, but open camping out in the wilderness somewhere, or even at the beach. Sometimes I'll do that. But the RV, the kitchen's always there, and you know, I got like a small refrigerator with a freezer that came with it, 3-burner stove if I want to use that, which I haven't really used. I used it initially to test it to make sure it all worked, but I haven't used it since. It's got an oven which I haven't gotten working yet. It hasn't been a priority to get the oven working, but it has 120 volt outlets. So if you have an RV and you're able to secure parking that has electricity, 120 volts, 30 to, I don't know if it's 50 amps, 30 or 50 amp hookup to your RV, and you have sewage dumping capabilities and city water, you have a house. In my case, I basically got a house for $1,200. Where are you going to get a house for $1,200? That has all the appliances and they work. The only thing missing is washer dryer, you know. Yeah, the bathroom and stuff all still needs work, of course. You know, when you buy low end, you can expect to have to fix things up. You could possibly buy an RV similar to mine, but in good shape like it is right now, or better shape than it is, for roughly, I would say, $6,000 to $15,000. If you can get it lower than that, you got a bargain. You know, if you get one that's running, that has no leaks, has appliances and they work, especially if it has the working RV generator. I guess they call it the Onan generators that are mounted underneath the RV, you know, outside. That would be ideal. But living in an RV, if you have city hookups and stuff, only if you can afford the rent. Okay, it's expensive. It's more expensive than living in a van, stealth camping for free. My cost for sleeping each night in the van essentially was $0. My cost for sleeping in the RV roughly is, depending on where I camp, you know, which park and stuff, it's going to be anywhere from $15 to $25 a night. So $15 to $25 per night to camp in the RV. But for that price, you have running water, you have sewage, and you have unlimited electricity. That's a pretty good deal. You know, so on average, between $450 to $1,200, $1,100 to rent a spot for your RV to park and have power and water and electricity. That's not bad. But of course, it's rent every month, as if you had an apartment or something. Is an RV better than an apartment? In a lot of ways, yeah. Apartments, you are right next door to you're right on your neighbor. The RV park that you choose for your RV where you're going to stay determines whether it's good or bad in that regards. If you can pick a park where, you know, you're not right on top of one another, that's ideal. That's like excellent. And they do exist. You just got to look around and, you know, be a bit choosy. But I highly, highly recommend living in an RV if you can secure parking. If you have family members somewhere, if you have friends who will let you park in their backyard and the city allows it, you can park back there. And if they let you run electricity, you can run 120 volt electricity and power, depending on how many amps you pull out, you know, how many amps they send to you, you could power your air conditioner. At the very least, you could power a window-sized air conditioner. Just put it in the room that you want to use the most, you know, like the bedroom or something where you want it super cold. So you put a 5,000 BTU air conditioner in there. That'll be easily powered by a 120 volt cord from a house, you know. And you can run your electrical appliances. You just have to kind of load balance, not run it all at once, because it'll blow the circuit. But anyhow, if you have that to me is the most ideal for saving money. I mean, the most ideal is you can afford a house and you have, you know, the house and the electricity and the water all there. That to me is better than an RV. Oh yeah, 1,000 times better than an RV, because I used to live in a house, so I do know what it feels like to live in a house. But living in an RV is like 1,000 times better than living in a van. So those of you who are living in a house, contemplating living in a van, that's the difference. It's 1,000 times worse, okay? So, but living in you know, it's 2,000 times worse. Was it 2,000? No, it's 10. I don't know what that math is. I guess it'd be 2,000 times worse. Yeah, 2,000 times worse living in a van than it is living in a house. Because living in an RV is about 1,000 times worse than living in a house. Although there are some pluses, you know. Like I said, if you're the type who's living in an RV that's in good shape, that you can travel, and that's what you want to do, then traveling in an RV and living in it full time is ideal. If you're not worried about gasoline, you know, and all the other issues associated with RV life. Because it's kind of a pain to hook things up, set things up, take it down and whatnot. But if you're into traveling, it's the most comfortable way to travel, I think. And not just comfortable for traveling, but comfortable for sleeping after you travel. But me personally, based on my experiences, I would rather travel and live in a minivan with up to 2 people, you know, like 2 total. I would choose a minivan. I wouldn't even choose a full-size van. I'd choose a van just like Little Blue 2 and deck it out just like this and travel. And because you're only using it for sleeping and eating, you know, cooking, you're not really using it to live in, you're living out of the van. I would think that would be the reason for traveling. If you're traveling across the country and then you go to a new location and all you do is stay inside the RV and watch TV, do you see a problem with that? You don't have to be in the mountains or at the beach or whatever to sit out, you know, and watch TV. You could be wherever. So if you're traveling, it doesn't really make sense to me to take a big luxurious vehicle like an RV or whatever for traveling when it's so complicated. You know, it's harder to drive, it's harder to park, it's more expensive. It's, I think, in a lot of ways more dangerous to drive an RV than it is a minivan. A minivan is just a lot more convenient. But for full-time living, I hope as you are watching on my channel, it's giving you some ideas and stuff. If you can afford an RV, the first thing you need to make sure before even getting an RV is making sure, absolutely sure, that you have at least one secure parking spot where you can afford to park it there, and where it won't be a problem with the neighbors, with the police, with the city, the county, the state, whatever, your country, where it's not going to be an issue. So once you know that you have secured parking available, and you know you can afford the RV, you know, whatever shape it is, if it's already good, you know, fixed and ready to go, you are golden. If you're like me, having no money really, but having a lot of determination and an attitude that no matter what it is, you can do it, you know. It may not be perfect, it only needs to be good enough, right? So if you can do that, I highly, highly recommend living in an RV. Save you so much money. Even if you have to rent a slot, you know, somewhere at a park or something. But that hurts quite a bit, because the money that you put into that park, you could be using for traveling, you could be using for other things. You're just paying to park your vehicle there. But you do get electricity out of it, you know, if it's included in the price. And you get water, and you get sewage dumping. So that's the benefit you get for that money that you're paying. So it's not like totally wasted. It's just that me, coming from a background, you know, recent background, that I'm used to living in a van where I don't have to pay for any of that. That was all free! Because one, I didn't use much electricity. I generated my own off the alternator, you know, to cook, to run the TV, to do everything, house battery system, to make everything work. I generate my own electricity, which you can still do in an RV, and we'll talk about that in later episodes, future episodes, rather. But I highly recommend it. Only if you are able to secure a parking spot, because you saw my little drama there with the whole Mad Max issue, and that's why I bought the RV. When I talked to Max, he told me I could park there. I would, worked out a deal where I would do some work, which I did do the work, but then he turned it around and tried to get money from me, and I think he was trying to make it so I would have to leave the RV, but that's just me. I don't know. I do know this, it caused all that drama, but then like I said, Timothy stepped in and Connie has stepped in to extend things further, which, if everything works out with what's been going on with Timothy, Connie, Charles, and a whole bunch of other channel angels who have basically banded together to try to ensure that I'll be okay, are making this situation possible where I'm not only living in the RV right now, I'm secured for probably another month or two, then after that it's up in the air. But I'm not as bad as I was before, because Connie has generously covered me, okay? So it's not like, I can't even believe how the difference between 3 months ago to now. Okay, I'm now at the point of actually trying to increase my income and to lock down my non-homelessness situation. I'm still not at the end of homelessness, because I still don't have my own place. I have my own RV. I just don't have my own land or something I can park on. I don't have that security. And even that, the government can still come take it away from you if you don't pay taxes, or they feel they want to put a road through your house, a roadway. So there's all these rules and stuff that happen with society and government that can cause you to lose what you thought was yours. But it's a lot more secure than when you're on the street with no assets. Like right now, I really don't have any real assets. But if I can secure a place where I can park the RV without too much trouble from the city and the county and the police and the neighbors and all that, I'm golden. Right now, I'm having to pay every month, and honestly, it hasn't been me paying. It's been Timothy, who has graciously volunteered, even though it's going to end soon, because he had calculated how much he could afford, and he's actually doing that. But we're going to talk about that kind of stuff on Pay It Forward, and why it's important to not overvalue money. But we'll talk about that there, because that's what that channel is about, trying to change people's attitudes about money, and to realize what's really important about in life. And it's not money. If you're religious, it doesn't even matter what religion, okay, other than maybe Scientology. But almost any other religion, I think money is not important. It's actually considered the root of evil. So keep that in mind. But anyhow, I'm going on a tangent here. But it is pertinent, because it has to do with whether or not you can afford to live in an RV. So that's pretty much it. If you can secure a parking spot, you can either afford it and know you're not going to be able to. You're not going to get kicked out because you suddenly can't afford it for whatever reason. Like, let's say you're on a pension or something. Let's say you get $800-900 a month, which is lower than what I think most of you would get, but some of you might get that much, disability, pension, and whatever, and you own the RV outright, okay, then there's no cost other than, parking the RV and food and, water, electricity, internet, stuff like that. But if you get into an RV park and you get it for, let's say, $600, that leaves you about $300 or $400 left over for food and entertainment. And you live like a king almost. You don't live as comfortably as you would in a house, but you live almost as comfortably as you would in a mobile home or a portable modular home. The RV, depending on what size you get, tends to be smaller. If you're like me, broke, you're probably going to get something older. But it's good enough. It's large. It's just a heck of a lot more comfortable than living in a van. You can walk. I walk around. I stretch. I have a sofa I can sit down on and watch TV. I can lay down on the sofa and watch TV. I have a dining table that I've converted into a desk, so I have an actual desk, a real desk, not a tiny little thing. I have a real desk that I can actually work on, and I have a widescreen monitor. You know, that's actually a TV screen that I use as a monitor, but it's like a 24 or 32 inch. I couldn't fit all that in a van, you know. I use that. And how I could afford all this, if you've been following, I didn't really buy all this stuff new. Most of the electronics and other things I've been buying used from Goodwill for like between $9 to $20 at the most. Like $20 for TV, you know. TV/monitor. So it's worth it, you know. It's worth doing all this. It does mean you're acquiring things again, which is kind of bad if you're a minimalist. You know, if you're truly a minimalist, you shouldn't even live in a van. You should probably live, you know, in a tent, a yurt, or something. But you gotta be a minimalist and live in a van. But I say these so-called minimalists live in a van, but then they want computer, they want internet, they want their game system, video game systems. That's not very minimalist. Okay, if you're minimalist, yeah, or maybe, you know, I guess it depends on what your definition is of minimalist. But I hope this was informative for those of you who, you know, thought about how you can save money and thought about living in a van, but never really gave thought to living in an RV because you thought they'd be too expensive. The main thing is securing land somewhere where you can park it, and also working out the sewage and the electrical system. If you're going to be totally off-grid by yourself, and you know that you have land, like your own land out in the middle of nowhere, you can generate your own electricity enough to run things. You can get a gas generator and, you know, just expend money on gasoline to keep that thing running, or you can invest in solar panels, like maybe 1,000 to 2,000 watts of solar. And you're like, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, but you're not having to put it on the RV. You're actually in your own land somewhere in a remote location. So in that case, you can set up 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 watts of solar panels. Of course, that's very expensive, mind you. But, you know, if you had even 1,000 or 2,000 watts, I think that's enough to run an RV to live off. It's like enough to run the tiny house. You could run your air conditioner, you could run your refrigerator, you can watch TV. You know, you can't run everything all at once, and most of that stuff you have to load balance. You have to do it when the sun's out, like, you know, do it during the daytime. At night, you're running off battery power. You could have like 1,000 or 2,000 amp hours of battery power. That's what you would need to keep everything running at night. And it has to all charge up during the daytime. But, you know, that's so far down the road. I don't know if we're ever going to do that on this channel, because it would be super expensive. But it's something I would do if I had the money, you know, just to show people how it's done. And it would be nice to be able to generate everything yourself, you know. But you don't really need to generate all that if you're just living in it. You like you know, you saw that I was able to live in Little Blue 2, the van, without even solar panel. Really, I could run it off. You know, all the power I needed was generated off the car's alternator. So it just depends on how much power you want to use. But the reason all this comes up in an RV is, as I said, it's 1,000 times more comfortable. It's 1,000 times more comfortable because you got a refrigerator, you got all these things. You got a big, huge air conditioner, you got big screen TV. All this stuff requires electricity and power. If you get an RV and you decide to live simple, like in a van, then it doesn't require all this stuff, you know. You could probably get a small battery pack, probably 200 amp hours, even 100 amp hours, and solar panels, maybe 200 watts of solar panels, and you can live comfortably running a fan all night, you know, a little 12-volt fan or two. So it just depends on how comfortable you want to be. But if you're going to live in an RV and you have the funds, I do recommend getting a generator, or getting, you know, that is powerful enough to run the air conditioner, powerful enough to run the stove and everything else you need, the refrigerator and things like that, or a battery bank or an inverter to run all that. Because that's the benefit of living in an RV. If you have an RV that you can live in, but you don't ever run the refrigerator or the air conditioner and all that other stuff, you might as well live in a van. You know, it's just a lot more economical. And it's less space. RV, you got a lot of space. And, you know, that's a benefit, but that's also the detriment because, you know, it takes more energy to heat or cool down a larger space than it does a tiny little van like this, a minivan. So, just some things to think and ponder about, but definitely something I would recommend if you are running out of money, you know, you're low on funds, or you're about to lose your home, but you still have a little bit of resources left. Consider getting an RV. Get the best one you can afford. Try to get one that's totally paid off so you don't have any other debt. And then also try to acquire land or something where you can park your own spot. And you can get your own solar power and all that. And you're like independent. You're no longer at the whim of whatever. The only thing you have to make sure is you have enough money for the government still. You know, they want their taxes and everything else. You have to pay all the associated fees. And of course, insurance and everything else that you may be required to carry. Ooh, crap. Almost hit an animal there, a squirrel. Yeah, it's all right. I see it. Two squirrels were chasing each other. And he ran right in front of my tire. He's all right. I saw him chasing each other like you crazy squirrel. Anyhow, I'm going to wrap it up. Highly recommended. If you can afford an RV, I recommend living in an RV versus living in a van if you can secure a parking spot for it. Otherwise, I recommend stealth van camping where you can save more money, you know, but definitely worth considering. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to share this video. Leave your comments down below. I do read the comments. And if you have questions and stuff, post it on there. I do try to answer questions as they come up, as time permits, and as I remember. So until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. Bye now.